I grabbed this one because it was long and I was like, what is it saying? Am I supposed to read it?
Yes.
A client you've been seeing for a while tells you he hasn't been sleeping well. He feels fatigued, his wife's complained of bad smelling breath, and he states he does not have any dental issues. Has been to the dentist recently. He has no history of vitamin or mineral deficiencies, but hasn't had a blood test for 12 months. Would you recommend a blood test to check for deficiencies? Sure. Why not? Well, no, because food is not a medication, so I wouldn't ever use the word dose. In terms of regime I follow, depends how bad the constipation is. It also depends on what foods they like. Ideally, I would go for a fluid if I'm using a regime, just because it's easier to measure and to consume, and a lot of foods that are high in polyols aren't necessarily always widely available, because the ones with polyols are stone fruit and they're seasonal. So I would tend to use like a pear juice or a prune juice, and I would probably dose it up in the morning around about the 200 mils, because I don't want them to be flooding their system with more than that. It's also quite high in energy. So 200 mils in the morning, depending if it's really bad, then maybe another 200 mils before they go to bed. Potentially warm it if you can, it's even better, but that sounds revolting. So 200 mils by daily for those with terrible constipation, and just once a day for those just struggling to open. Like medications for depression, anxiety, medications for like blood pressure. What else am I thinking of? What other sort of medications? The two ones that come to mind. But look, most if all, particularly in pediatric populations, they're heavily based on weight. Even just general antibiotics, for example, and for adults as well too, are based on weight, and it's more so in pediatric populations. But anything that is affected by weight, and blood pressure and fluid tablets, as well as medications for depression, like I've mentioned, because they'll change the stasis, and the same with medications for diabetes will also be dependent upon weight as well. So really anything, if you're going to be losing a large proportion of weight, you need to be talking to your GP, particularly if you are on a lot of medications, because their effectiveness will change. It would be based on how much is a lot. It's the same as thiamine. Thiamine is recommended for people who consume a lot of alcohol. I would say most nights, large doses, 6+ drinks, standard drinks a night on average. You can have a look at the risk of anemia and issues with folate by looking at red blood cell size, and a lot of people with alcohol issues will have like microcytic anemia and a weird shaped looking red blood cells, so that would be an indication that maybe there's a folate issue. I would always encourage that if you are concerned to get a blood test. If they are presenting with normal folate, may not necessarily mean that they're not going to be depleted or it hasn't reduced down from where it is. So I would look for a history on folate. But high doses, I would go definitely thiamine as a recommendation, and then folate might be something that comes along with it, because folate deficiency is more of a longer term issue than it is just they've been drinking for a couple of months, and heavily so.